Good afternoon, or I keep saying that. Good morning. My name is Booker Hodges. I'm the Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. First off, before I get started, I just really want to thank all of the protesters that came out and expressed their First Amendment right, and those that remained peaceful throughout the day, which were the vast majority of the people who came out and protested today. But unfortunately, there were those that decided to come out and throw bricks, a light here, alcohol bottles, cans, and other items at law enforcement officers today. And our unified command in this plan that we've been putting together for the last 3 months, we've said that this type of activity will not be tolerated. And today we continue to execute our plan. Unfortunately, again, some citizens decided to come out and throw these bricks and these other items at law enforcement, and this type of behavior is not acceptable, and we're just quite frankly not going to tolerate it. So with that, I will turn it over to Hennepin County Sheriff Dave Hutchinson.
Thank you, sir. Again, Dave Hutchinson, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to talk about the events tonight. I was the incident commander, but we are under a unified command, which is everybody under Operation Safety Net. The reason we did this is to preserve public safety throughout the city of Brooklyn Center and make sure the citizens of that community are safe, as well as keeping the damage to a minimum. But again, we are under a unified command, and it's important to note that the Sheriff's Office does step in these situations when is needed, and we continue to be a good partner through the Operation Safety Net throughout this endeavor. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matt Langer. I have the honor and privilege of serving as Chief of the Minnesota State Patrol. And my role in this news conference is to just walk through a little bit of the events tonight in representing of the Unified Command and the law enforcement leaders that have been involved. As most people know, there was a curfew that was put into place by the City of Brooklyn Center that started at 10 p.m. We were aware of a couple of events in the city, one that was very peaceful near the vigil, one that was near FBI headquarters, and then one that became the focal point out in front of the Brooklyn Center Police Department once again. Our teams were actively working together under a unified command and had developed plans, hoping that tonight would be more peaceful than last night, hoping that the strategies that we've been talking about from the beginning would be adhered to, that people come and they're welcome to exercise their First Amendment right, but that they refrain from the criminal activity that causes damage and prohibits people from exercising their First Amendment right. As the evening unfolded, the event devolved and became more contentious, and tensions rose, and once again we saw groups choose to actively begin trying to compromise the fence that is securing the police department, began throwing objects that you can see here, many of examples of what you can see here. Started with the fireworks, started with lasers being pointed, and started with the activities that lead toward a riot. And so decisions were made to provide dispersal orders to encourage the group to leave. Those dispersal orders were certainly adhered to by some, but not everybody. And so as the night unfolded, our teams worked together in coordinated fashion to enforce the dispersal orders that were given, and ended up making many arrests for riot and other criminal behaviors. So I don't have total arrest numbers at this moment. We're still working to collect those, and some of the work is still being done. But we have upwards of 60 arrests for people that will be booked into the Hennepin County Jail for various charges. And I'd just like to reiterate what other people have said, and I'll say it again. The behaviors that we continue to see are unacceptable, and we are not going to tolerate them. But we still need help. We need help from people who can support us in our message to say, it's fine, and we encourage you to be peaceful and exercise your First Amendment right. It is not acceptable and will not be tolerated if you choose to come and do criminal activity and destroy property and throw objects and make it unsafe for people to come and exercise their First Amendment rights. With that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Huffman from the Minneapolis Police Department.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Amelia Huffman. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Minneapolis Police Department. As of 11:15 tonight, we have only 2 people who were arrested in the city of Minneapolis for curfew violations. Both were cited and released. There have been no reports of looting and no confirmed business burglaries. Teams of officers will continue to perform high visibility patrols in our commercial corridors, looking for any signs of trouble and working on keeping our community secure. We remain very grateful for both our community and law enforcement partners. And with that, we would be happy to take questions.
When you look at the table, what do you see there? What's one thing to turn people's eyes?
The question is, when I look at the table, what's most dangerous? And I will say this from someone that has responsibility for the men and women of the Minnesota State Patrol that have come from all over the state to protect the community where they don't live, but that they care about. These objects are dangerous and they can hurt people. And that's as simple as it gets. And so our ask is that people listen to what we're saying and that they come and they express their First Amendment right and their viewpoint. But to throw objects, not just to throw objects, but to throw objects with the intent of hurting other people, whether they're police officers or not, is just unacceptable, and it needs to stop.
Question here. The time it took law enforcement to move in tonight and start to disperse and start to move demonstrators out, make arrests, was much quicker than last night. Why is that?
The question is, why was it quicker tonight than it was last night? Again, it's because of the unified command. We all are working together. We're in the same room. We're making decisions together to stop the violence. Because if we stop the violence before it gets super out of control, it's safer for, again, the community. It's safer for the whole city of Brooklyn Center. Our job here is safety. We're trying to maintain order so people can peacefully protest without getting things lobbed at them, etc. So we're working on this. If there's other opportunities for protests that get out of control in the next few days, our goal is to hopefully act even quicker.
In one of our live videos, we actually saw where officers sprayed irritant through the fence. They were on the inside of the fence and sprayed through the fence as protesters or agitators tried to call. What is the level of force? What is the instructions for officers, whether they're in a cluster, whether it's the National Guard? What is the procedure in confronting these, I'll call them agitators?
The procedure of confronting the agitators is the question. Early on in the night, there was people in the crowd spraying deputies and officers with OC, which is mace, if you will. I don't know the exact time that you're talking about, but the deputies, troopers, police officers out there are given discretion of when they feel that they need to use that to maintain safety.
And for the people who have been arrested, are they local, out of town? Have you looked at that at all?
We're going to gather that information, as the colonel said, as soon as we get that and confirm it. Because, again, we don't want to give false information to the media because that's happened in the past. So we're going to make sure we have all the correct information. And as soon as we get it, it'll be sent out to the media.
And what is the relationship with the prosecutors making sure that these people are charged and they're not, the charges aren't confused? We've got a lot going on in this.
Great question, sir. The question was the prosecution. The prosecution, again, is part of the Unified Command. We had the attorneys in the room with us, and they are working on it, and hopefully that those people will be charged, especially the people with violent actions against the community.
A lot more National Guard tonight, a lot of law enforcement tonight, back-to-back nights. How difficult is it going to be? Anybody can take this question as well. How difficult is it going to be to balance, preserving energy, making sure people are doing okay as we move forward, obviously, what could be a long 2 weeks?
I think that's a great question, and I appreciate it because the recognition of what these law enforcement officers are doing needs to be made. It's extremely difficult, extremely tiring, extremely dangerous, volatile, contentious work. And the instructions that we give are to go out there and try as hard as you can to be as professionally as you possibly can be in the face of chaos and in the face of people that are intent to do harm on our officers. That said, they're highly motivated. They care deeply about what has happened and about what led up to this event, and they care deeply about resolving it and restoring peace. And so from my perspective, when I talk to them and I hear from them, whether they're police officers, deputies, state troopers, National Guard soldiers, they are deeply motivated. But they also want this to stop so that they can go home and go back to their regular jobs and go back to their regular missions, knowing that peace has been restored and that the community can move forward by healing in regard to what happened that led up to this and the events that we've seen in the past couple nights. But make no mistake about it, we are prepared, and we will be back tomorrow, and we are not going to tolerate the activities that we've seen the past couple of nights in the future either.
Okay, I'm not sure what your experience is, but has anybody been behind a shield and you get, is that paintball? It looks like someone shooting paintballs at us. Explain why the shield is here?
I believe that's because they are throwing paint at the deputies and troopers, et cetera. I don't know the reason. Some people, I was on a call earlier, national call, that said those are doing it to mark the officers so they can go follow them and through the crowd and attack them, or it could be to obscure their vision. So there's many reasons, but again, it's unsafe. I mean, that was probably a can of paint thrown at it, not a spray paint bottle. So it's dangerous. Again, we recognize the pain the community is facing from what happened Sunday. We don't like that. The person is no longer a police officer, and they'll be held accountable for their actions. But we can't have people hurting our communities, and we can't have people hurting the men and women who are paid to protect them. We need to stop this actions now so we can get on with healing and making police reform changes if the community sees that as fit. So again, we need to stop this so we can heal, so we can be better, so we can get past this, and we need the community, we need the politicians' support. Real changes come when we're together on the topic and not always bumping heads and disagreeing. We all know that we need to be better. We're going to get better. This stuff does not make anybody better.
One last question. So what's being done for the officers who are out there night after night? Do you guys have a program in place where if they need counseling, if they're stressed out, who's taking care of the officers?
Okay.
I'm really appreciative of that question, too, about how we care for our officers because, again, whether they're police officers, deputies, or troopers or soldiers, they're human beings. They experience trauma like any other human being, and they experience the same emotions. And so every chief, every sheriff is, of course, responsible for taking care of their people, but I can assure you from a state patrol perspective that we're taking care of our people, we're talking, we have resources available, and really it's about caring for their mind, body, and spirit. So when they're at work, they are engaged and they are ready to deal with whatever comes at them in a way that's consistent with our core values and to be proud of the work they're doing.